All right, hey gang, welcome back to Eastbjorn. I'm not at the nav table this time, but at the salon table. Change of scenery today because it's too sunny over at the nav table, so welcome aboard. First off, big thanks to Sophie of Ryan and Sophie Sailing for helping set this up with Oda and set up the YouTube project for us. Sophie was alone on Polar Seal when Ryan was off teaching an aviation course, and Oda sailed in on the SNUPPA, and the two of them hit it off, so thanks to Sophie for setting this up for me. I finally met Oda in person in Bergen when I went out there in December to watch the Storm Weather Shanty Choir. I was traveling with my best friend Clint Wells, who you will know from the podcast too. Clint sailed with us across the Atlantic on Arcturus, and he was there in New Zealand when I first met Mia. Anyhow, about halfway through this chat, you'll hear Clint chime into the conversation, as well as August Sandberg, another friend who was helping with the filming of the show, and incidentally, who also helps on the podcast. Thanks, August. August is actually sailing with me on Ice Bear later this year and has been helping produce the podcast, like I said, while I'm at sea. Anyhow, Clint and August are the two voices you'll hear in this besides mine and Oda's, and if you're watching this on YouTube, hey gang, they're actually off camera, so you're not going to see them. To be clear, Clint is the Brit, while August has the Norwegian accent. Make sure to check out 59-north.com/offshore for openings in our passage calendar to sail with us. Just today we had a cancellation, I think, for one of the Canada trips on Ice Bear, so that's going to be up. Hopefully it'll still be there by the time you see this, maybe not. If you haven't heard yet, we've opened the pre-orders for the Arctic Coffee Table book, so go to 59-north.com/80north. That's the name of the book. We've only printed 250 of them, so they're going fast. I think we've already sold like 15 in the first 12 hours they've been for sale. So anyway, check that out, and really excited about that project. If you would like, consider supporting the show at patreon.com/onthewind. That goes for both the YouTube and the podcast version. Or you can support us directly. There's a big blue fund button if you go to onthewind.co. Okay, thank you very much, and hold fast. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Oda Pedersen Taule is a self-taught 20-something Norwegian sailor who set out single-handed on her little sloop SNUPPA bound for Australia. Oda learned the hard way, getting badly beaten up on her first Bay of Biscay crossing, even needing to call the Coast Guard for help. The experience didn't discourage her, though, on the contrary. Oda and I met in Bergen in December to record the podcast in person, and despite her youth, I discovered that she is wise beyond her years and can teach us all a lot about patience, perseverance, and the passion to follow your dreams. All right, are we going?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, everything's rolling.
All right, thanks.
Good.
Ready?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks for coming. I much prefer to do these interviews in person, and I actually came out to Bergen for the Storm Weather Shanty Choir guy who we interviewed yesterday. I interviewed August this morning, and I was like, okay, who else do I know in Bergen? And you and I had already been in touch and made this work, so thank you. If you want to start us off by describing the setting, we're in your hometown, I guess.
Yeah, we're in my hometown, Bergen, in a very nice apartment Airbnb in my favorite street in Bergen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why
really
is it your
love
favorite
here.
street?
No, it's so small. The whole area here is beautiful, and the street with a lot of trees, and the road is also very nice, like old Bergen. It's beautiful.
I just picked randomly on Airbnb, so we got lucky, Clint. Picked a good one. I should say, out of the frame, too, Clint is here and August is here, so you guys can say hi.
Hey guys.
Hello, mate. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
Cool. So, what was it like growing up here in Bergen? Did you come from a sailing background? Was that a part of your life, like, as a kid?
Actually, my parents bought a sailboat when I was about 8 years old, and they had no idea how to sail. They've never been aboard a sailboat before, but they've heard about this sailing around the world and how beautiful and nice it is. So they had this dream. They bought a sailboat and started to do sailing classes with a dream about sailing with the whole family around the world in like 10 years from now. So that's where it started, and about 4 years after they bought the boat, we started to sail to the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a family.
Yeah. So
How old were you?
I was 12 years old. And my mom was homeschooling us for a year in the
Huh.
boat.
Cool.
And we were 5 people in a small Bavaria, 36.
So I didn't know that about you. I told you a minute ago that I barely know anything. I think our friend Sophie got us in touch in the first place. When I was a kid, we did something very similar. I was 9, my sister was 7, and we went down the east coast of the U.S. and spent the winter in the Bahamas, and I was homeschooled as well. So I know what that experience was like for me. What was sort of what did you learn from that experience, I guess, and how did that affect the way you looked at sort of the rest of your life? I know you're only 12, but how do you look back on that, I guess?
When I'm sailing around now and I see other families with their kids sailing around, I get so happy because every child should have that childhood, be able to sail around and fish and, I don't know, just travel around with not much and see how the world works. And I think for me, I kind of learned how small the world is. Like I've been sailing to the Caribbean in a small boat, so after that, I felt like anything is possible, kind of, that I could go wherever I wanted because it's not that far.
I think, on the other hand, it makes it, to me, it also makes the world seem bigger in one sense because you can fly. If you'd flown to the Caribbean, you could have done it in 6, 7, 8 hours. To sail there, it takes, 30 days? And that's from the Canaries. You got to get there first.
Yeah.
So I think it does both things weirdly. Do you know what I mean? Because you have to actually, it's like me taking the train here. You were teasing me about taking the train here. It's the same thing. It's traveling at a pace that is more comfortable for a human. Do you agree with that, August?
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. It's it really makes you realize how far away things are, to me at least.
Yeah, but like you said, at the same time, it is attainable at a human pace. It's not impossible.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Did you have when you grew up, did you have a stable childhood? Meaning, did you stay in the same house and was it the same friends and family around a lot? And I have a reason I'm asking you this question.
Yeah, I think I have very stable growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, same house, same school, same friends, kind of the same.
I ask you that because I had it very similar. And the year we went on that sailing trip was sort of the first memories that I have, almost very distinct memories as a person, because I was only 9. I was a little bit younger than you were, but every year prior to that was kind of the same, and they sort of blended together. And then that year was really stood out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And how did that? I mean, what was it like? I guess, was that uncommon, or were there other Norwegian families going sailing to the Caribbean, or were your school friends like, you guys are crazy?
Yeah, it wasn't very common. It was what is it now, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
So we really stood out, I think. But that was. We also met a lot of other families, but not many from Norway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys all speak English by then?
Yeah.
So that
family,
was
yeah.
You as a family, meaning you're traveling outside of Norway, and that was never a problem. What were some of the memories that stand out from you from that trip that affected your own sailing now?
I think it was. I really remember I had a night shift when we were sailing across the Atlantic on our way back, and it was a storm, and I was sitting there alone, just for an hour, just to let my parents sleep a little bit longer. And I was really scared, but I had my headphones on with some nice music my dad gave me. And it felt really good. And my dad was bragging about me to everyone when we got to shore. And yeah, that was that feeling, just being alone, being scared, but be able to handle it in a way.
Did your parents, how old were your brothers or sisters?
My brother was 16, so he was a little bit too old, I think. And my little sister was 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and your parents were letting you guys be sort of active members of the crew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we were just there and did as we were told.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually learn a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like the sailing.
Like technical.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know how to change a filter on the engine or trim the sails. I know how to pull up the main sail. That's it.
What did your parents? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
If you could hold the microphone just a
Sorry.
little higher. Perfect. Yeah.
My
thanks.
audio
Sorry.
technician. I don't usually have that. Thanks. What was I going to say? What did your parents do for a living, and how were they able to like? Because sort of you as a kid didn't really have a choice. So how were they able to get away for a year like that?
I think they saved up a lot of money, and we rented out the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an income every month. Yeah.
What did they do for work?
My dad is a electrical engineer, and my mom works as I don't know if that's an English word, ergotherapist.
Some kind of therapist.
Yeah.
What was it like when you got back? I'm sure you have a million stories from that trip, but like I was saying before here, I'm more interested in sort of how your philosophy has evolved over the years. So when you got back from that trip, what was it like for you to sort of re-enter real life?
When I got back, I was 13. When I left, I was 12. So basically, when I got back, I was a teenager. So when we docked into Bergen, I put a bra on and some makeup and did like teenage stuff. And I hadn't done that before. That was the day we arrived home.
Really?
I was a teenager. I wanted to fit in with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it difficult?
Not really, no. But it was very difficult to tell everyone about the trip, and they couldn't imagine what it had been like. So that's, I think that's the most difficult thing about arriving back from something that none of your friends have been a part of.
Did you find that you had changed at all, getting back in with your old group of friends?
I think I was more, I was able to do things on my own, and I've had a better understanding of the world. But we didn't have any lectures about the stars and everything. So planets, I don't know anything about the planets because that's what I missed that year being away from school at home.
Okay.
So, but I know a lot of other stuff. I know how to fish, and I know how to, cook food when the boat is rolling. I don't know.
Yeah, but you get that life experience too. I mean, I had 4th grade on our trip, and I could not tell you. I don't remember being homeschooled. Like, I remember a lot about the trip. The only thing I remember is like one book report that I had to write. I read a book and I wrote something about it. That's the only. So that's not really the point, I guess. You still have to do the schooling, but that's not what you're taking away. You're learning just about the world, I think. How did that then? I guess when you got back, you were a teenager, but when you got a little bit older, what is it in Norway? Do you go off to university? Have you gone to school? Did you take a year? I know a lot of people like after gymnasiet or whatever take a year off. What did you do and during that time?
Well, I booked a study in Mexico as soon as I turned 18 and was allowed to move away from home. So I went on my own to Mexico to study Spanish. So that was, like I told you, the world felt so small. So going to Mexico alone was not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes, I did that and did a lot of backpacking. For the first year.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, so to speak?
No, I really want to do something with films, television. But no, not at all.
Where did that come from, you think? The film stuff?
I think maybe my dad, because he loved to take photos.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's the closest I've got.
Did you pursue that then? Like, did you go to school for film?
Yeah. So I'd been studied in southern Norway, in Kristiansand, for 2 years. And then I got into a film school in Oslo.
Okay.
So I went there for 2 years as well.
So at what point did you decide, I'm going to go sailing without my family?
That was when I moved away from home. I didn't have access to a sailboat anymore, and I lived in Oslo. Everyone else bought an apartment, so I figured that that's the way it should be. So I was going to buy an apartment, and then it hit me that I'm not happy in a 15 square meters apartment in Oslo, and I don't want to be here forever. I don't want to be stuck in here with a loan and the same day every day. So I decided just like an impulse, just to buy a sailboat, just to be able to do something different and to, I don't know, just to sail an hour away, just to do something.
To have that freedom to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
How old were you?
I was, 22.
So where did you get the money to buy did you buy a sailboat, and where did you get the money from for it?
I've been saving for an apartment like everyone else.
Yeah.
So I spent half of the money on the sailboat and the rest I was using on my trip.
Which the Mexico trip or the backpacking trip?
The sailing trip.
Okay. So how did you manage to break that mold of other friends? Like, did people think you were crazy, or did you just say, you know what, I'm doing this anyway?
Yeah, but I think my friends they thought it was cool that I had my own boat. And I had a lot of parties in there that summer. So I think they enjoyed it too. But I think it's everyone is supposed to buy an apartment and study and do all of that. And I don't want to be like that. And no matter what my friends think or want me to do or my family want me to do, I just want to be happy and
Was your family supportive?
My family?
Yeah.
Yeah, very supportive.
Yeah. I guess they it would be weird if they weren't, having taken you out of school.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So and what was did you have a goal, or was it just to go have your own boat? Like what was the spark?
I was like I said, I just wanted to have the freedom and be able to go out on the weekends. And we were I had my friends over for a party and we were talking about Australia, and it hit me like, okay, we're sitting in my sailboat and I'm done studying next year. I could just sail there. So that's when I decided, and I worked really hard to reach that goal. I said that, okay, next summer, a year from when I decided that I was supposed to leave.
And did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
And how, like, where was the first step on that goal?
Well, I had no idea how to fix up a boat for a long trip like that. So I just started, I don't know, I think I just started to take everything apart and change some electrical wires and isolated the boat. I don't know why, because I was going to do this out.
Yeah.
And engine work, and really had to just learn everything. And that's a good thing about taking it apart, because then you have to take it back together and work with it until it's done.
That's what August and you and I were talking about this morning, about the benefits of how much you learn by refitting your own boat.
Exactly. Yeah, but then you know all the systems and how to fix them and stuff. Well, what kind of boat did you get?
Thank you.
It's a Jeanneau Rush, a 97 from 1985.
How big is that?
32 feet.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Cool. So what were some of the challenges? Like, there must have been a time, I know at least there was for me, when we bought our first boat. Mia and I sailed across the Atlantic to Sweden in 2011. But during the refit, there's like so many times where I thought, like, just really frustrated because it's more work than you expect. It costs more money than you think. Did you ever have any down points?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And especially when I was doing everything alone. I got a lot of help from my dad, but I did most of it all alone, and just sitting in my boat all alone and trying to figure out something and not be able to fix it for hours.
Was it on purpose that you did this stuff alone? Like, could you have asked people for help and chose not to, or?
I could have, but then it takes the good feeling away when you manage to do it on your own. That's a quite good feeling. No, but I really like to be independent and to fix stuff, and I love to work on the engine and get my hands dirty and know how to do that, to change the filters.
How do you learn that though? Was it reading? I mean, you can't just I guess you could start taking stuff apart, but is that literally how you did it, or were you reading books?
There's a manual going with the engine, with pictures.
How are you brave enough to do that though? I mean, that's scary. Yeah,
it's just one step at a time. It started with the diesel filter, and I did everything. Like, I did everything wrong at the first time, and then next time I knew how to do it. So,
Okay. Was there any like instances, any examples where you did something like really wrong? Do you have any funny stories?
an embarrassing thing I've done many times is when I took the boat out of the water. I also took the propeller off
Mm-hmm.
because I was changing the shaft thing.
The zinc.
No, the one
The
that goes around the shaft with grease on.
Yeah, like the
The-
one that's preventing water from
Yes,
entering
exactly.
through
the cutlass bearing.
Yes,
Ah.
no,
Yes, no.
no,
The stuffing box.
maybe.
Yes. That's what seals the water from coming in where the
Yes,
propeller
that
shaft.
one,
Yeah,
that one,
stuffing box.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to take the propeller apart
Yeah.
and took it back on and took the boat in the water. And it's quite expensive to take the boat out of the water. And when I was starting the engine, I felt so proud of myself because I've done all that work alone. And I even managed to take the propeller back on. And I started the engine, and then the whole shaft just fell off because I didn't tighten the screws.
Where the shaft connects to the back of the engine.
Yes.
Oh no. Did water start coming in the boat then?
Yeah. So I had to take it back up.
Oh wow. Were you still like in the lift? Were they right there, or was that like panic?
It was on the lift, and he just dropped the straps, and it was a lot of wind, so the boat was drifting out. So
Sinking at the same time.
no, well, I had it under control, kind of, but the owner of the lift had to take his own sailboat and go and get me.
So you just drifted out, and now you have no propeller. Oh, and you said you've done this several times.
Yeah, but not exactly with that one, but with the propeller.
Yeah.
Because I always put it back on the wrong way for some reason. So whenever I start the engine, something is not working. And I've done that 3 times.
August, I didn't ask you any of those questions this morning. Let's hear one of your embarrassing stories.
Oh,
You have to have one.
Oh, I have tons. I have tons of embarrassing stories. I think maybe my favorite one that comes to mind when you're telling this, there was like we parted like the chain for the rudder quadrant in the Caribbean. We were sailing between some of the islands, and we sort of sailed into Puerto Rico with the emergency tiller and the wind vane and stuff. And I went to work to fix this. And I sort of replaced the whole thing. It's like, I could fished up the chain from the pedestal thing with a fish hook and made everything. It was looking real nice. I was so proud of myself, like you were. And then a couple of days later, we were leaving. I was sort of getting out of the dock, and I was almost like slammed into this huge luxury motor yacht because I had reversed the steering.
Oh no!
Because you're supposed to cross the cable's supposed to cross, you know, and I didn't do that. So
oh wow!
Yeah.
So you're turning one way and the boat's going the other way.
yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
that was incredibly embarrassing.
That could happen to
Yeah.
anyone.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. With that,
That's,
yeah.
I guess to be fair, I need to think of a. Oh, I have a very good one. Okay, so when we were refitting Arcturus to come across the Atlantic, the boat that you sailed with us on, Clint, I was redesigning the rig, and we put the chain plates that the shrouds are attached to used to come down through the deck like they do on most boats, like inboard of the hull sides. And I didn't like that, so I wanted to put them on the outside of the boat. They were almost all the way out anyway. So I'm like, the boat was out of the water. We had set up a spinnaker pole as like a temporary mast so we could get the angles correct on where we were going to line up the shrouds. So we were tracing this. We had a ladder. We had all measuring perfect. I'm notoriously bad at measuring. I always screw up measuring. So get it lined up, make sure it's perfect. No, we got to move it a little bit. So we're not going to use that one. We're going to use this one here. The next day we go to drill, and I saw where I had put the holes to drill. It was going to be 4 holes through the side of the boat to mount these chain plates. And there were 4 holes with an X over them. It's like X marks the spot. Perfect. 4 big half-inch holes in the side of the boat. The X's were because I wasn't supposed to drill there. 2 inches to the right, there was other marks that did not have X's over them. Those were the correct holes. So now we have 4 half-inch holes in the side of the boat that we had to fix. But I think you'll both agree with me. Like, what that taught me was that you can always fix it. Like, don't be scared of doing work yourself, because if you screw it up, you can always fix it. And that was, I think, the lesson I took.
And
That's
then
very
you
true.
won't do it again.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So what was the plan? I'm always surprised when I write down goals. Like I keep a journal now and then, and I'll write down lists of things I want to accomplish. And sometimes I won't even go back and look at it, and except years later, time to reset the camera.
Oh, reset the camera. I'll go get it.
All right, pause for a second. Just stop it and start it again. We good? Yep. All right. So what I was saying, what was I saying? Oh, when I go back and look at these journal entries with like goals on them, I may have forgotten what I'd written down, but I'd find a few years later that I actually had accomplished those goals. So I'm curious, did you do something similar, or how did you manage to set goals, and then did you make a plan to achieve them, or was it not that specific?
It wasn't really that specific. I wanted to go to Australia and I didn't really know what to expect sailing alone. But I knew about the seasons, like going over the Bay of Biscay. You have to go there before 15th of August. And the season for crossing the Atlantic. So I knew I had to have these goals along the way. But nothing went as I thought it should go.
Does.
So, yeah.
But did you have a date set for like, okay, I'm leaving Norway now?
Yeah, that's what it says in every sailbook. Like, use the boat you have and set a date, and then just go.
And what books had you read to like inspire you, or to practical books, whatever? What were some of the things you read beforehand?
I didn't really read that much. I read some pilot books and the Cornell's Worldwide. Yeah.
World Sailing Routes.
Yes. Yeah. Just to get the idea where I was going. But I was kind of blind when I left. I didn't have a clue where to go, what to do, what to expect.
Where did the inspiration come from? Was it from that family trip you did, or did it come from something else?
Yeah, I think it was the family trip, and just that it was possible to go there.
Yeah. So what was it like the day you left Norway? What were you feeling?
I was kind of sad. When I left the dock, I was really sad, like scared, stressed, and I was just waiting for the butterflies to pop up in my stomach, because they always do when I put the sails up. So I was just waiting for them to come, and then I started crying instead.
Oh.
And my autopilot stopped working because it was I left on Friday. The first of
that's bad luck.
Of July, yeah. So I did everything wrong, and my autopilot stopped working, and I was like, "How is this gonna work? How will I get to Australia when I'm here crying?" But it felt much better. Day 2, it was great.
When did you leave? What year was it?
That was 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where did you leave from here? From Bergen or from Oslo?
From Oslo.
Okay. What was supposed to be the first sort of leg, I guess?
I didn't have a plan. I was just going until I was tired, and then dug up. So I got to Drøbak, which is, I think it's 6 hours or something. And then I was exhausted. Without an autopilot, of course, but yeah. It wasn't as I expected the first day.
What did you expect?
To be happy, to be free, to just feel like everything was as it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
But you did it anyway.
Yeah, I continued. And yeah, like I said, day 2 was great. And day 3 was even better. And I felt more confident in what I was doing. I managed to handle the sails alone. And just to get into the routines with doing everything on my own, with the sails and food and everything.
Did you have friends or family that said like, "Hey, we'll come along with you on these beginning legs"?
No, I was very determined that I was doing it on my own.
What was it about doing it on your own that was so appealing?
Just to be able to manage things alone, just to do it and feel proud afterwards.
Are you? I love that answer. I'm curious to hear about your personality. Like, do you like to be alone in general?
I love to be alone when it's my decision.
Uh-huh.
But I'm very social, and I need people. if I'm alone too long, I will get really depressed.
Do you think do you know introverted, extroverted?
Yeah.
Which would you define yourself as?
Extrovert, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yet you still enjoy the solo sailing.
Yeah, but it's just the sailing, just being out there, all alone, and listen to bad music and singing out loud and dance and I don't know, just be out there. It makes me feel so good. And then I come to shore and I meet people because there are people everywhere. And especially sailors are very open and including. So whenever I come to a new place, it's new people and new friends.
So that's part of it for you then, is I guess if I can draw a conclusion here, that you're an extroverted person and that you're getting that energy from strangers and you're allowing yourself to be yourself because you're alone and every situation is new. Is that a fair conclusion?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, because I felt like that. I mean, Clint, I'm going to make you pick up the mic now and talk. Go on, mate. When I first met you, I was traveling. I wasn't sailing, but I was traveling alone. You were with your brother, but I don't think you and I would have met had I been traveling with somebody else.
No, I think that's very true, actually.
And now you're one of my best friends in the whole world. And
No, I think that's very, very true.
So for me, anyway, I get that impression that I can feel more myself when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
When you're meeting other people.
I had the same experience. I was in.
Talk closer to the mic, mate.
Had the same.
No, you can use this one. Just talk closer.
I had the same experience when I was in Denmark. So it's a very, very busy city, and you're surrounded by lots of people. And I felt very alone. So I think it really depends on what you're doing and sort of, the place where you are as well. Because other times I've been traveling on my own, and you feel very, very content and full of love. So I'm not sure about the introvert and extrovert. If you're doing something that you love to do wholeheartedly, then it doesn't really matter. You know?
That's
the
very
first thing what I think. I got one quick question now. You maybe pick up the mic. Why is it bad luck to leave on a Friday?
I don't actually know the reason. There's a whole
no one knows.
Okay,
yeah, there's
but
a
it is
whole
a thing,
long
right?
list of sailing superstitions. I mean, it's a reason I got a pig and chicken on my feet. That's also superstitious. It's supposed to prevent me from drowning. For real, that's like
So far, so good, right?
So far, so good. But you know what? I worry because you're supposed to have the chicken on the right foot and the pig on the left. And I knew this. And we even sat in a coffee shop before I went to get the tattoos done and said to Mia, let's make sure we don't screw this up. And we screwed it up. So I've justified it by saying that it's my interpretation of the superstition.
Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. Thanks for making me feel better about it. Your travels by sailboat, do you do it for the sailing or do you do it for the traveling? I know it's a combination, but you don't have to sail to travel the world. So what is it that draws you to traveling in that way?
It's like you said, a combination. Very good question, though. But I really love the sailing. I'm happy when I'm sailing. Always, almost, always. And that feeling I only get when I'm sailing. But I also like to travel, so I could travel by plane or by train. But now I have my home with me. I have all my stuff. I have my own bed. I can do it in go wherever I want. So it's definitely a combination. But I wouldn't be this happy without the boat.
I think that's for me one of the coolest things about traveling by boat is that it's so strange that as soon as you duck your head down inside the boat, it's home. And as soon as you stick your head up, you're in a completely different place. It's hard for the brain, I think, to even process that.
Yeah.
You stick your head up one day, you're down in Puerto Rico, and then 2 years later, I stick my head out and we're looking at polar bears in Svalbard. But you just here to here, it's home and it's exotic. It's home again. It's a very strange thing, but also very comforting in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not as scary. I think it's different, the way you and I were traveling in New Zealand and Fiji. You're really on the road. You're never home. And I think it's a different feeling. Did you get that impression when we were sailing on Arcturus? So you're up on watch, and then you go down below, and it's home again.
Arcturus, I had mixed emotions though when I was sailing on Arcturus. 'Cause obviously, I don't really sail.
Talk the mic closer.
Sorry, man.
Good
I don't
job.
really sell that much. So there's one point within 24 hours that I'm loving life. Like it's the best experience I've ever had. And then a few hours later, I'm regretting agreeing to go sailing with you, and knowing I've got weeks and weeks and weeks.
We were
of
23 days across the Atlantic. It was a very slow passage.
23. Is that it? It seemed longer.
But on the other hand, it seems shorter too, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
No, I mean this is for me. This is meeting you, and so I wouldn't have sailed unless I met you. And often things in life they come to you when you don't actually plan for it. And this is what I teach. You know, I teach yoga. I teach letting life just flow. But often I don't do that. You know,
You wouldn't
try
be
and
sitting in
plan.
Bergen here if it weren't for me.
This is the thing. This is exactly how it is. So you've got to be a little bit more open. And I think sailing is perfect for that. Really.
You're right. It is.
I mean, I don't know what
I
the
don't even
terminology.
think you know
but-
how right you are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the terminology, but I mean, if you've got a plan, you're going to a certain goal. The wind's with you. It's a beautiful day. The wind changes. You got two choices: you battle against the wind, or you go with the flow. This is what I teach. I mean, sailing is that kind of accepting life.
This is
around
exactly
you.
what you and I were talking about the other night. And this is what you and I were talking about the other day
Yeah.
with acceptance. You're given a set of circumstances, and it becomes very specific on the boat because, especially in your case, because you are alone, and you can't. There's nothing that's gonna. You have to deal with what's in front of you, and if you accept it, it's much easier to manage than if you fight it. So,
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with this.
are you emotional on the boat by yourself? Do you have highs and lows? You and I know, are very emotional.
We had many highs and lows,
Talking
right?
to Clint.
Sorry, I'm just gonna cut it. Could you hold the mic a bit more still? Not move your
wave it
fingers
around
too
so
much.
much?
No, just not move your fingers too much.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That's right.
Thank you, tech man.
Yeah.
No, but
Carry on.
I tend to be very emotional on the boat. I can have
Yeah.
very, very good days and very low days. What are you like?
Yeah, I could lay on the couch crying because I'm feeling lonely, or I could be super happy, just can't stand sit still. Yeah, and just fixing something and not be able to fix it, be super angry, or yeah.
How do you? Speaking of acceptance, how do you manage that then?
Well, it's just a feeling, so it's a reason that it's there. So if I'm feeling lonely, I might call my mom or call my friends. Yeah.
That's you make it sound so easy. It's not that easy. I'm very impressed because it is when you're, for me anyway, when you're feeling bad about it. God, there's nothing. You're stuck. You feel like a prisoner on the boat at sea anyway. You're like, because you truly are, but you have to just dig yourself out of it and deal with it. So I have to say that's impressive.
Yeah,
that
but
you're
there's a
able to do that.
reason for every feeling.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling sad, just do something about it.
Yeah, but not everyone's like evolved enough to realize that. Like just the fact that you're conscious of that is, I think, a step in the right direction. Like it's a simple thing to say, but I think it's a pretty deep realization. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you know what I mean because I don't think you feel it like the same way. Do you know?
I want to say something. I think people go their whole lives and do not have that experience. I think you're very, very lucky to have that experience now.
To be conscious of those feelings.
Yeah, well, not just that. I think the sailing in itself as well is also going to address. You have to face the one person in your life, which will give you the most and biggest obstacles, and that's yourself. And it's true, right? I mean, you're going to be up against everything. That's why the emotions are so high and then they're so low. And you have no choice but to observe yourself and then deal with it. That's acceptance again. Acceptance again.
Yeah, when you're sitting alone in the ocean, you have plenty of time to think and reflect about life and feelings and how to make your life better.
Yeah, we're getting deep here. Guys. This is good. What's the longest passage you've done now by yourself?
That's actually 3 days.
From where to where?
Over the Bay of Biscay.
Why do you laugh?
No, it's the worst 3 days of my life, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
How come? What happened?
no, I just decided to cross the Bay of Biscay alone because I've heard a lot of stories about that bay. But I figured, oh, it's so cool if I can do that alone. So I did it. I went out from Brest in northern France. And after like 4 hours of sailing, the autopilot broke down. That was the only self-steering thing I had. And for me, yeah, this was like late October. So way past the season.
I was going to say, you just said a minute ago, August 15th. What happened to that?
No. So for me, it felt like this was on my way to Australia. So it felt like, okay, I'm going now or I'm going home. So I was just thinking that, okay, it's 3 days. I could steer for 3 days and be awake for 3 days. Just 3 days. So I decided and I went for it. And it didn't go very well. After 2.5 days, I started hallucinating because I was just sitting there staring for 3 days. It was raining. I was lying there with my duvet on in my sleeping bag. It was freezing cold. Raining. I hallucinated. I couldn't go and get food because I didn't want to go off course. And if I fell asleep just for a second, my boat would just turn around and go back to France. And yeah, I wasn't really clear in my head. And I saw that the rope that goes from the boom up to the mast, it was about to break. So I just thought that, okay, just take all the sails down because something is gonna break. And I did that. And second after, I got a rope in my propeller. And that rope also went into the rudder, so I couldn't steer. But I managed to get it out for a second and be able to steer for a little bit. And I put up the Genoa, and I was sailing like 2 knots or something. But there was nothing I could do. It was maybe 12 hours left to Spain. And that night, a big storm came up, and I don't know how much wind there was, but I had 4 meters wave coming from behind and breaking over me when I was lying there staring. And the kick broke, and I don't know the word, but the rope that goes from the boom and down to the boat.
The main sheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the thing there broke off, so the boom was everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And what else broke? The mainsail got stuck in the spreaders, so that broke as well. And the rope that I had in my propeller got stuck in the rudder again. So whenever a wave was coming from behind, and I couldn't steer, my boat was laying sideways, 90 degrees, on the waves. And it was completely dark. I was all alone. I was so tired. And it was just a couple of hours left to Spain.
What happened when you got in? How did you get in?
I didn't. Well, obviously I did, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't steer. I didn't have engine. My mainsail was broke, so everything was completely chaos. So I called the Coast Guard, and they went out to tow me back in.
How did that feel when they showed up?
I was just crying, well, screaming because I was so scared. I was sitting on deck holding my grab bag because I had my hard disks in it. And the girl on the phone from the Coast Guard, she was just trying to calm me down. Oh, you're so brave. It's gonna be okay. And that just made me cry even more. And I asked them if someone could please keep me company on the boat while we were towing 4 hours to Spain. So this guy called Manuel, he jumped into my boat, and we were sitting there while we were towed into Spain. and just looking at the stars, talking about life, and it was kind of romantic in a super weird way. And yeah, we got back safely to Spain, and he asked me for coffee. Yeah, but that was terrible coming to Spain. Everything was broken. I was all alone in a village in Spain. So I really didn't want to go any further. I wanted to just quit and go back home.
But you didn't.
I didn't.
So why not?
I got some help to fix my autopilot and to fix take the rope out of the propeller, and then it felt a little bit lighter. And then I sailed to A Coruña, where I knew I had some friends, and after that everything just went perfectly. I met people and got help to fix everything, and yeah, just the people really.
What did you learn anything about yourself from that experience?
Yeah, I know I'm able to stay up for 3 days.
Oh,
And
God, I can't imagine doing that. Oof.
yeah, I'm not very good at cooking, and especially not when I'm sailing. I don't cook at all, really. So that's what I learned, that it's super important to eat, because if you don't eat, your body don't work. So I know if I had eaten and got some sleep on that trip over the Bay of Biscay, I would have done a lot differently.
Do you, in life in general, away from sailing, are you into challenging yourself? Like, did you play sports? Are you a runner? Like anything like that? Or like, I'm wondering where this challenge to think that you can push yourself that hard, where does that come from?
I think it's just in the sailing, actually. Yeah.
So you never did like ran marathons or did anything crazy like that. So it wasn't. So still not. I guess it's not just about the challenge. It's about you're so dedicated to that one goal.
No.
How has the sort of Australia plans? How has that all evolved as you've had these different experiences on the way? And what do you think about your plans now into the future?
Well, I didn't go to Australia. I met a guy in Gibraltar who was joining me for a couple of weeks, and it was very nice. So he joined me to the Caribbean, and when I got there, it felt like the trip was about to do stuff and to challenge myself. And I really felt that I've got that just only the first month. So I accomplished what I had in mind before I left, and it wasn't that important to go to Australia. It was about the trip and learn stuff and challenge myself. And I ran out of money as well, so decided to sail back home, and that felt like a good decision. So I'm really glad I did that.
And so how far did you make it then?
Well, we sailed to the Caribbean, south in Grenada, and then up to Antigua, and then we crossed the Atlantic from there.
Oh, did you get the camera?
No, I didn't. Let's.
So we're almost done, but reset it again one more time. So you said you got to Grenada, did Eastern Caribbean, and then how did you sail back? Which way? I mean?
From Antigua to the Azores, and
Straight,
then
no Bermuda.
No.
Cool. That can be a difficult trip.
Yeah, it was.
Did you do that by yourself?
No, I had the guy with me. Yeah. So we had completely no wind for a week, just drifting, and we were into really bad weather as well. So we got a little bit of everything.
What time of year was it?
That was May.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what year was that?
2017.
So last summer.
Yeah.
We might have crossed paths in the Azores because we went Antigua or BVI Bermuda Azores. So
when were you there?
At the same time. Yeah, early June or late May. No, it would have been late May.
Yeah,
May.
me too.
Probably we're in the same place, same time. Yeah, cool. What? So where's the boat now?
The boat is now in the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
I got a normal job when I get back home and loved it, but I love sailing more. So I just saved all I could, living in the boat, spending no money, So just saved up a lot, just in case I wanted to go out again. And then I left again now, 1st of July again this year.
So you got the boat initially all the way back to Norway.
Mm.
Okay, so when you say home, that's
That's Oslo,
Norway.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Norway.
And then you set out again and got down to the Med.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because I really wanted to do the Bay of Biscay again. I think that was the main goal for this
Prove
trip.
yourself.
Yeah.
And how did it go the second time?
It went great. It's one of the best trips I've had ever.
Cool. How did that feel?
Oh, it's so good. I just was so happy. My whole body, I couldn't stand still the whole trip. So much energy and so happy, and it felt really good just to arrive without any accident. Nothing went wrong. It was just perfect sailing.
Is it possible to put into words like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 like big things you learned from the beginning of this to the end? Because it sounds like, you know, just ending with that story across Biscay, that what did you do differently that made it successful the second time?
I think it's about to just do it. And if something goes wrong, you learn from it, and the next time you will do it better. And that's the thing for life in general, I think. Just do it.
That's a great segue. I was curious, how do you see the, like, not the rest of your life, but how do you plan yourself, your life going forward?
I don't have any plans, but it's just about doing whatever makes me happy. And right now that's sailing, and next year it might be something else, and I'll do something else.
How do you make a living? You got to pay the bills. Not that you have a lot of bills, it sounds like, but you have you have to live. How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm saving and I'm spending as less money as I can.
I think that's the key, is not how much you make, it's how much you don't spend.
Yes, exactly.
I'm learning so much.
Pay attention, Clinton. Cool.
True.
So do you have any specific sailing plans or sort of what's the next? There's got to be something that's in the back of your head.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of dreams. I really want to sail through Russia, and also I want to sail to Greenland, and I also still have this dream about Australia.
Cool.
Sometime, yeah.
Well, this we can wrap this up. I always ask, just to be sure, is there anything that you want to tell me about that I forgot to ask, like some big thing, part of your personality you want to share, something I didn't ask that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we just talked about my personality and the worst thing I've experienced in my whole life. So I think we're good.
Cool. Well, we'll finish like I always do. 2 questions. What do you want to recommend, and who do you think I should have interview next on the podcast?
Oh, I recommend. You said books, and I really have my favorite book. I think it's only Norwegian, maybe.
That's okay. What is it?
It's called Kakerlakkenes Død.
Do you know it, August?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, read up. What's it about?
It's about a couple who builds their own colony archer, and they sail to the Caribbean. The whole book starts with the boat sinking, and that really got me. And yeah, he's just very funny writing about how long distance sailing is like, and all the fun stuff we get into.
Well, you'll have to write that down so I
Yeah,
can
will.
find it, and I'll link to it. And who do you think I should interview next on the podcast?
Well, I met a super interesting guy in Portugal in a small bay called Alvor. It's a 70-year-old guy named David. He's from England, and he lives in his trimaran all alone. And he's like he's just inventing.
Okay, he's an inventor.
A lot of stuff, and he lives in his boat, and he goes out every night dancing. So I met him out dancing, and he invited me to his boat, and he's just
So you met a 70-year-old
crazy.
guy out dancing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, you'll have to get me in touch with him.
I will.
Last chance, guys. Any last questions?
I actually want to ask one question.
Fire away.
For all 3 of you, actually.
Cool.
So I want one word. When you guys are doing the thing that you love to do, I mean, when you're really connected, when you're sailing. There's 3 different people, so there's probably 3 different emotions or feelings that you have. I don't want a long descriptive. I just want one word.
To describe an emotion?
No, just to describe. No, not even an emotion. It doesn't have to be an emotion.
Yeah, okay.
But what is it for you? Why are you sailing? And it doesn't have to be positive or negative, but just one word.
You want to go first?
I was just thinking about butterflies because when I'm so happy, it feels like I have butterflies in my whole body. Like I'm kind of flying. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's a
like.
great question.
It's a
Clem.
really great
Really good
question.
question.
I know it. Like some days it would be a very positive word. Other days it would be a really foul,
Where's it leading to
nasty
now?
one.
Then? Just go for whichever one it's going to now.
I guess like challenging might be the first thing that that's always there. At least that's sort of the the foundation. I think.
That's also a
That
good
makes
answer.
sense.
Yours was a great answer. That was a good answer. My answer is presence. You're gonna like that one.
Present.
Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
nice.
Yeah, I never
Oh,
feel
damn it.
as in the moment as I do, because what I like the best about offshore sailing specifically is the forced disconnection. I watched a movie recently where a guy said, "I could live this lifestyle ashore, but I'm not disciplined enough." And
That's great.
I'm exactly like
It
that.
forces you to be present.
yeah, and it's okay. I have a weak personality in that sense, but I enjoy I feel most like myself offshore.
That's a great answer. I can relate to that a lot.
Cool. This is super fun, guys.
Yeah. I actually have a question, if I could.
Fire away, yeah,
cool.
please.
Because when I've been following your traveling, Oda, it's been super fun, and to me it sounds like you sort of SNUPPA your boat has sort of become like a friend to you, or like you sort of there's some kind of personality there, and I feel the same way about all my boats, and I was wondering if you wanted to. If you feel that like there's some sort of relationship going on there with the boat.
Yeah, because she's taking me all over the world safely, and it's like how do you say it, like a trust thing that I take care of her, and then she will take care of me and make sure that I get to the next port safely. So I kind of talk to her and
Yeah.
thank you for this trip. It was great. Yes.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I've done that too.
Cool. What is that? Just a name, or does it mean anything?
No, it's
SNUPPA?
you don't have that in Sweden. It's a it's kind of like your nickname for a girlfriend, like
Okay.
baby,
Oh.
kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect.
Mm.
All right. This is really fun. Thank you so much for doing this. I love
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Especially, I should say, it's obvious people watching this, but how old are you?
26.
Yeah, I love that there are people like you that are doing this, like inspiring other young people. You see so many retired people, and people think in general, I gotta wait until I have enough money to do, and then they never do it, or they do it when they're 65. So, thank you for doing this and sharing your story. I think it's really inspiring.
Thank you.
All right, we did it. Thanks, guys.
Great. Yeah. Wow, really good.
That was fun.
Cool.
Was fun, wasn't it?
Oh, my hands are super sweaty now.
Cool. Thanks so much for doing
That's
that.
really
Thank you.
great.
It was a really good interview. You're good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of practice.
Questions.
I've had a lot
It
of
worked
practice.
really well though. It
Yeah,
worked really
I think
good.
so.
It worked really good.
Sweet. Thanks for the tech support, August.
Oh yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Stop waving your microphone.
On the Wind is produced by 59 Degrees North and hosted by Andy Schell. August Sandberg helps with the filmed version of the show, and both he and Lee Cumberland help produce the audio show when Andy and I are at sea. Sophie Darcy of Ryan and Sophie Sailing on YouTube has been a big help in setting up our YouTube channel for the filmed version of the show. The show notes have become a group effort and are written mostly by Ben Sufer, previously by Liz Karamavros, and sometimes by me, Mia Carlson. Cameron Dale composed and performs the intro music to the show, and Stormweather Shanty Choir are behind the outro music. Make sure to listen to episode number 252 with Håkon Vatle to hear about the history of the band and sea shanties in general. Subscribe to On the Wind on iTunes, Google Podcast, and your favorite Codcast app. You can help us out and support the show by simply leaving a review on iTunes, or better yet, telling your friends. You can also donate cash money. Cash money, homie? Right? You can also donate cash money via patreon.com/onthewind or directly to us. Just click the big blue fund button at onthewind.co. Finally, a huge thanks to all of you who listen. Email your comments and interview suggestions, or just say hello to holdfast@59-north.com. We read and reply to every email. Don't you worry. Until next time, hold fast.
We'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you took up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Once more.